Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. This going to do a little something different rather than a video CPA minute. We actually found a great webinar, and this is a changing world. And Mark, Patrick, and I, we've been doing our best to try to keep you up to date on the latest developments. Not only for our clients but for our friends. We like to think we're a good CPA firm and a bunch of talented folks and business consultants, but sometimes, we're talented enough to know what our limits are. We certainly don't practice law, and with everything coming so rapidly over the last couple of weeks, we thought it would be a really good idea to reach out to a friend that we've collaborated with in the past, Mark Addington of Addington Law, to help us out a little bit. Mark has been practicing law for over 16 years, but prior to that, he was involved in the restaurant industry as an officer of a chain of restaurants, over 48 restaurants. So while he spent the 17 years in management, managing over 2,700 employees, he had the opportunity to train over 225 operations managers and was personally involved in opening the doors of 50 different restaurants. So Mark, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you for coming on board with us.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
This webinar, I'm going to include the link in the bottom. Honestly, Mark, it's lengthy, but it's really informative and it's detailed. What was going through your head when you thought about putting together a webinar like this?
It is lengthy. It's over an hour long. And I'm sorry for that, but there's lots of information. And really what was going through my head is, wow, there's lots of information. And it's very fast, and I think that it's critical for small businesses, medium-sized businesses that had never had these types of obligations to understand as soon as possible what changes in the law were happening and how it would impact them. And so, my number one goal was to start disseminating information as it became available. The law was signed in March of 18th of March. And so on that day, President Trump signed the law, but we didn't have regulations. And the Department of Labor and the IRS and other agencies ultimately are going to be enforcing a law and drafting the regulations kind of as they go. And the effective date on this is April 2nd. So it's really critical for businesses to understand all of the changes and to develop some sort of system for making sure that they stay up to date on what their obligations are. There's obligations that we now know about that we didn't even know about when the webinar was finished, less than a week ago. And so there are notice requirements now that are important. There's going to be requirements in terms of how money will go to employees and how it will be coming back to the businesses through tax credits. And so there's just a lot of information that's brand new. Most medium and small businesses have never had to deal with this before. And so it's kind of a evolving and important area of employment law that all businesses, now smaller businesses with very limited resources, need to develop a way to stay up to date on quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, I'm really thankful that you were able to pull this together, even to keep me up to date. But what about some of the employers out there? If there was one takeaway that you wish they get from the webinar, what should an employer do right now?
Find a way to understand all of your obligations. The webinar should give you a great starting point, but I don't think that's enough. Since the webinar was created a few days ago, as I said, there are new things coming out. The Department of Labor has put together a notice. You may have your workforce working in a central location, but probably not. Many, many businesses now are working remotely, and you have obligations to provide them certain notices under the law. And those types of things are important. Will there be a grace period or a non-enforcement period? There's been discussion with the Department of Labor about that potentially happening for a very short term. But since this is such an important issue and is sort of taken over in terms of coverage and media and attention, I don't expect that the grace period will be very long. And really the onus is on businesses to get current and to stay aware of a changing and evolving circumstance, so they know what their obligations are under the new law.
Well, Mark, I truly appreciate it. And again, I want to thank you for coming on and offering this webinar, not only to our clients, but our friends and the small business community. We met each other and we worked together through the Small Business Resource Network at the SBDC at UNF. We've collaborated on some clients in the past, and I really appreciate you making this available to us.
My pleasure. It's a privilege. If I can answer any questions, I hope I can be a resource for anyone. Look forward to doing all I can to help.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. We'll see you.
All right. Thank you.